So we go on to the rationals, the NT types. And so some characteristics of the rationals: they're pragmatic, skeptical, self-contained, and focus on problem solving. At the same time, they're ingenuous, independent, strong-willed. They make reasonable mates and individualizing parents, and are even-tempered, trust logic, yearn for achievement, seek knowledge, prize technology, and dream of understanding how the world works. They're also hungry to accomplish their goals. So we'll look at the first set of NT types in our series of 4 INTPs. Yeah. Steve Jobs, Morgan Freeman, Carl Jung is there, godfather of the MBTI theory. They're known as the enthusiastic improviser. They seek to develop logical explanations for everything that interests them. They're theoretical and abstract, and interested in more ideas in the social interaction. They're quiet, contained, flexible, and adaptable, and have an unusual ability to focus in depth to solve problems in their area of interest. They're skeptical, sometimes critical, but always analytical. And these are their cognitive functions. So we talked a lot about this the last few sessions. I'm not going to go into it that much today. I'm going to write down the cognitive functions of the INFJ. And again, in terms of strength, you see these are the bars. And these are known as the shadow functions. So INTP, their strongest functions: introverted thinking, followed by extroverted intuition, introverted sensing, and extroverted feeling. So how does this work with an INFJ? INTPs are great debaters and have great intelligence. They can explore an idea in singular depth for a long period of time. So they come up with really complex theories. They can come up, like Steve Jobs came up with the iPhone. They came up with really interesting inventions. They're very good at creating stuff, and that comes from extroverted intuition. The introverted thinking is very big, and it means explore an idea for a very long period of time. Often they'll explore it to a huge amount of detail, and INFJ can explore it to some detail, but not as much as an INTP can. And that can make quite an interesting intellectual pairing. If you talk about logical things, science, philosophy, if you talk about people at the same time, INTP is an extroverted feeling function, which is similar to INFJ here. So they talk about people for a lot of depth. Some, like Carl Jung, would study people for very long periods of time to come up with very intellectual understanding of how people work. So they understand people from a very kind of abstract standpoint. They typically don't get involved as much in the feelings of it, because their feeling is way down here. They'll explore people from a logical standpoint to try and form logical systems as to how people operate. That's how he came up with these 8 functions in the first place. He kind of studied from a very intellectual standpoint and realized this is how people work. So what will you find in a relationship? Some of the strengths you have talked about: intellectual strength. You can have deep conversation, both being introverts, philosophical. INTPs are inquisitive and, by and large, emotionally calm. Their feeling function being way down here. Overall, they're pretty calm, but under stress, like with most things, this function can react. Feelings can explode. They would kind of share their feelings and values in can be a very explosive manner. It's not typically as well managed as an INFJ can, because the feeling, INFJ is typically better at managing feelings, feeling being the second function, INTP being the fourth function. So they'll be pretty calm overall because they're kind of NT types, analytical. But if their feelings get disturbed for whatever reason, you can get a emotional outburst or something uncharacteristic happening here. So some of the challenges, lack detached. Some INTPs can be very emotionally detached, and you'll just explore their ideas, and their work is kind of their main focus. In fact, pretty much for every NT type, their work's going to be right up there in terms of their focus, less on relationship with people. They make decisions based on their thoughts as opposed to people, which way down there. Lack of emotional connection can take place. Feeling function for INFJ being second, INTP being fourth. Both may, in a relationship with an INTP, you may both neglect your physical needs, both being pretty intellectual and abstract. You'll be focused on intellectual pursuits. You may get emotionally indifferent questioning, so which is to say that an INTP may get into debating and just questioning an INFJ just for the sake of it, to satisfy their intellectual curiosity, ignoring the fact on how the INFJ feels, because they don't really know how the INFJ feels because their feeling is way down here. INFJ may be quite upset by an INTP's questioning of logic, because they be like, don't need to focus on logic that much, let's focus on relationship and people. That's more important to an INFJ. So that's some of the things that could happen. We'd like to move on to our next pairing, an ENTP. So here's some of the famous ENTPs. So ENTPs, what are ENTPs like? The ENTPs are known as the enterprising explorer. So they're quick-minded, especially quick-minded, ingenuous, stimulating, alert, outspoken. They're resourceful in solving new and challenging problems, and adept at generating conceptual possibilities and then analyzing them strategically. They're good at reading other people. They're often bored by routine and will seldom do the same thing in the same way. They're apt to turn to one new interest after another. So basically, they are the extroverted versions of the INTP, and they would share the same functions as the INTP, just more extroverted. Okay, this is the first time we've come across someone with extroverted intuition dominant. And what do I mean by this? INFJs are introverted intuition dominant, and it's a convergent function which kind of forms singular solutions to complex problems. So if you look at it, like an INFJ is always going deep to find a solution to a problem. As someone who uses extroverted intuition, especially someone who uses extroverted intuition as their first function, is going to go wide to find the solution to a problem. So they will hop around from idea to idea to idea to idea, and they will kind of pull together lots of information from many different sources to form their picture of how things, or their intuition of how the world should be, or a solution to a problem. So why an INFJ may find this very, very attractive is the fact that INFJs are intuition dominant, going very deep, extroverted intuition going very wide. When you put the two together, you have, as a couple or pairing, the ability to solve a problem by going deep, and an ENTP can put across a new idea, a new situation that an INFJ would never have thought about, because they're so busy down in their hole trying to figure out what the problem is. They're not seeing that there could be another way to solve a problem and another avenue to explore. ENTPs can do that with, so you can combine these together. You have a way of solving problems that cover almost like the whole lattice, and you can do very interesting things with this pairing. It's attractive for both sides, And ENTP will find the INFJ's ability to go very deep into a problem to solve it also pretty attractive. And typically both are going to be pretty intellectual. At the same time, what you have going on here is commonality in language, in how decisions are made. I mean, how the mind works. The thinking function is the same, feeling function is the same, but intuition is the number one thing. So ENTP pretty good at exploring ideas from introverted thinking standpoint, which is explore the idea how INFJ solve it from thinking outside the box. So these two are there, and extrovert feeling, looking for shared feelings and values. So you've got quite an interesting combination going on with these two, and that's why it's often, very, very often talked about on online forums and so on websites as one of the better matches for INFJs. So again, it's relationship strengths to recap: quick-minded, idea generation, intelligent. At the same time, because you have this extroverted intuition, this creativity, you've got this playful humor going on, which is playful humor and banter, which is pretty attractive. Very quick-minded, because they jump around from idea to idea, and it's nice to have that quick mind around. Some of the challenges, at the same time, logic ruling emotions over here. Decisions will be made based on logic. They may explore theoretical ideas to solutions that an INFJ will go and say, okay, what's the point of it? You know, how does it help people? How's it going to help a relationship? ENTPs will not care about it. It's a nice idea. I'm going to explore it. It's fun. INFJ will be like, how does it help the people? How does it help the world? Relationships. Because idea generation bounces around a lot. If INFJ wants to go deep, you may find that quite, what do you call it, not very focused. INFJ want to focus to a solution to a problem, being a J. People explore a problem just for sometimes the sake of it and the idea of it. Debating, rebellious or combative, sometimes ENTP can like the banter and just to make fun of people for the sake of it, just because it's fun to them. And INFJ may find it a bit too sensitive for that kind of thing. Same time, they lack details and routines to implement the insights, because they're P, they're kind of open-ended. J wants to kind of implement stuff and make things happen. And with both of these, sensing details are ignored. If I move, hang on. Yep, sensing details ignored. Something to note is ENTPs are pretty rare as well, being 4% of the population for men. Female, 2.4%. So not too hard to find. Data exists. But probably a lot more of the rarer type is the INTJ. For male, it's 3.3% of the population. Female 0.9 is the rarest female type out there. INTJs typically have the highest IQ out of any type. You get astrophysicists, rocket scientists, chess grandmasters, serial entrepreneurs, astronauts, astronomers, quantum physicists. So they're really cerebral. They come out with theories about life or very long-range plans about life. So INTJs are called the conceptual planners. They have original minds and a great drive for implementing their ideas and achieving their goals. They quickly see patterns in external events and develop long-range explanatory perspectives. When committed, they organize a job and carry it through. They're skeptical and independent, have high standards of competence and performance for themselves and for others. Because they're so intellectual, they have very high standards when that comes to work. Cognitive functions. So what you have with the cognitive functions is INTJs also share the introverted intuition function with the INFJ. It's the only other type that does this. And the introverted intuition, which we talked about, is convergent here. They're looking for ideas converging in the area of extroverted thinking, sciences, the chess, where you think logically like 10 moves ahead, and you have to come up with just the best move. What's the best move to make? They can do that many layers. And with extroverted thinking, the rules are typically defined. So there are laws, there are structures in place, and like scientific laws. There's like whether it's E equals mc squared or x, y, z equals 2 or something. There are very specific laws where there are singular solutions to problems. And there only is one solution. Like, can the rocket go into space? There must be a solution for that. There's one solution, and you can think very deeply to get that solution about. That's how these two functions work. Because obviously INFJs look at that more regards to people and feelings, on the F being the second function. So some of the relationship strengths you would have together as a pairing, you'll be hyper-intellectual. You have shared intellect, shared NI dominant, as talked about. You can have really deep discussions, shared long-range insights. You can work alone and be pretty independent together. Some of the challenges you may face. INTJs are typically emotionally contained. FI being an introverted feeling function, you can't see it and it's buried down as a third function. You will not be able to know what INFJ is feeling. They won't share it with you. They may not even know themselves because they're focused so deeply on the deep logic, and they're also introverted. So they're one of the most emotionally contained type. And the harsh TE logic, very structured, very strong, that can get clashes against the INFJ's softer extroverted feeling, which wants to keep external harmony and have nice, good feelings whenever you meet. INTJ won't really care that much about that because feeling function is introverted and they care about their logic, what makes sense logically a lot more. Work will pretty much always take a priority. INTJs are very smart and they work on their work a lot, and relationships are not as important to them, so they'll be working a lot. So you have the same weaknesses as well in the sensing world. You won't be, sensing being the weakest function, you won't be able to have as much, you have the same problems with the sensing world. You may both be combative against the sensing world and may get stressed out by sensing details or paying the bills or doing the laundry and so on. You're both going to clash in that area because you're both going to be in your heads figuring out long-range solutions to complex problems in your own different minds. Lack of emotional creation. Another thing is potential clash in the spiritual values. INFJs often are pretty spiritual, have very strong spiritual values, and that integrates with their life as a whole. INTJs are known for being very strong atheists or agnostics, and spirituality is not really a big thing because it can't be proven to hard sciences, and they're not really as concerned with the meaning behind it as much. INFJs exploring meaning, values, purpose, belonging. If it can't be proven through hard facts and scientific testing, and if INTJs may potentially discard that. Okay, the last one in the NT is ENTJs. So here's a list of ENTJs. You have range from successful business people, CEOs, evangelists, TV personalities, to actors and business people. ENTJs are known as the decisive strategists. They're frank, decisive, assume leadership readily. They quickly see illogical and inefficient procedures and policies develop and implement comprehensive systems to solve organizational problems. They're long-term planning and goal setting, and they're usually well-informed, well-read, enjoy expanding their knowledge and passing it on to others. They're also forceful in presenting their ideas. So their cognitive functions, they're extroverted versions of the INTJ, and they're a lot more extroverted than INTJ. This is one type which is going to be very good at business and the highest earning type according to some surveys. So it's successful in business and work, politics, writing, and to be very much focused on their work and end up very successful at it. Most of the times. So what's it like in a pairing with an ENTJ? Relationship strengths. ENTJ is also one of the most intellectual types. They offer very decisive leadership. They're highest earners. They're very capable and at home in the world. They can dominate pretty much every industry they set themselves out to because they're resolute, they're determined. Their feeling comes the last function. They don't really allow their feelings to get in the way of their work. Organizing the world and making the world a better place through hard extroverted thinking by setting up structures, systems, policies, law. The feeling doesn't get in the way of them achieving tasks and being good at what they do in work-wise. So they're very home with the world. Some of the challenges can be a workaholic. You get a lack of emotional connection, and ENTJ's feeling function down there, they don't really care how you're feeling as much. They won't share their feelings. They do feel, not that they don't, but it's not going to get in the way of the decision making, and their hard logic is going to rule pretty much most of the decisions. INFJs can find it impersonal and forceful. At the same time, this TE is linked to criticism, so they can be very critical and very challenging, and they don't think anything about that. They'll just challenge you, your feelings, your values, your beliefs, what's right, what's wrong. They know what's right. They're going to challenge you on that and have a forceful debate on what is it they believe. And they may also fail to know how the other person is feeling. Okay, do we have any questions on the NT types? Okay, we'll move on to the last one in our group. Is the Idealists, the NF types. We talked a little bit about this last time, but I'm just going to recap some of the characteristics of NF types. NF types are enthusiastic, they trust their intuition, they yearn for romance and seek their true self. Same time, they're loving, kind-hearted, and authentic. They're giving, trusting, spiritual, and focus on personal journeys and human potential. They make intense mates, nurturing parents, and inspirational leaders. They also dream of creating harmonious, caring, personal relationships. They also look for possibilities to be realized and meanings to be understood. So we're going to start with the ENFPs. Again, the ENFPs is probably one of the most, if not the most talked about types online in terms of best matches for an INFJ. And we're just going to go through some of their characteristics. We got presidents in there, parties, speakers, coaches, actors, celebrity chefs, writers, ENFPs. ENFPs are known as imaginative motivators. They're warmly enthusiastic and imaginative. They see life as full of possibilities. They make connections between events and information very quickly and confidently proceed based on the patterns they see. They want a lot of affirmation from others and readily give appreciation and support. Are spontaneous and flexible, often relying on their abilities to improvise and their verbal fluency. These are their cognitive functions. So I'm going to write down the cognitive functions here. The FP also shares extroverted intuition in common with the ENTP. And these are only two types which share extroverted intuition in common, moving from one idea to the next. Where they differ is the second function. With the ENTP, it was a thinking function. Here in ENFP, it's a feeling function, being NF, positions made of feeling. So I want you to look at what these two, how they stack up against an INFJ's 4 functions, and tell me what you notice. What do you notice about these 4 in these 4 functions?
Complementary.
Between the N's and the F's and so on. Any of the functions in common with each other? Right, they're all different. All the functions are different, but they're arranged in the same order, but just the opposite direction. For example, INFJ, the intuition is introverted, which we talked about. ENFP is extroverted. When INFJ, the feeling is extroverted, ENFP is introverted. Same with thinking and same with sensing. So within these 4 functions, you can make up these 4 shadow functions that the INFJ has no preference for using. So as a whole, you would end up with all 8 functions in some kind of order of strength. And the thing is, with this intuition being first and followed by feeling, you both develop insights, which is intuition, with regards to people feeling. And these are both perceiving functions. We haven't talked about this yet, but perceiving function means you're very open to ideas and possibilities. F and T are judging functions, N and E are perceiving functions. So an INFJ does not take time to, it takes time in order to form their conclusions about certain matters, always perceiving before narrowing things down to a solution. ENFP explores the ideas as well, but explores it widely. And they also don't ideas, as opposed to ENTP being more about things or business or facts or work. Their ideas are regards to people, but they come at it in a completely different angle from an INFJ. So both of you will try and understand people, and you both end up talking about relationships, but you try and understand people from a completely different angle, which can be attractive and complementary. So you combine these two, going deep and going broad together, to form a global picture about a situation regarding to people. And this complementary kind of pairing is probably one of the reasons that it's most talked about. So recap some of the strengths. ENFPs, because you have this creativity regards to introverted feeling. So introverted feeling is to do with, we talked about last time, INFP is introverted feeling first, but you have creativity first based on how the person feels. When you have creativity based on individual feelings, what you can get is a very big and warm smile that comes from within. You see, look at all these ENFPs here. You have a pretty big smile. It's kind of a creative smile. That's one of the characteristics of ENFPs, and it's very warm and inviting, and it kind of reflects what's going on within. So you get this creativity coming from within. It can make them very fun people to be with. And the functional complements that we talked about, they're quick-minded to understand theory. So INFJ was a theory about people, which may or may not be proven. You can use this theory about people and check your ideas against the ENFP's theory about people, and you can kind of form better understanding of how people work. They've also got long-term possibilities for people, and good with people, one of the most liked personalities, and intuitively intelligent, coming to intuitions about people, similar the same way. So, but some of the challenges that can happen in this relationship, functional opposites, which means that you share none of these in common. They can create some clashes as you don't have a common language to go by. You may want to go deep as an INFJ, and ENFP will want to go broad, so there's a clash. You will be concerned with extroverted feeling, how the feelings of the room and shared values. ENFP will be more personal feelings, how they feel is more important to the shared values. Introverted thinking will want to have ideas which are outside the box and don't conform to any fixed pattern. Extroverted thinking, we talked a little bit about that with the ENTJ, and the INTJ is going to be a lot more structured, so it's coming from a different angle. Extroverted sensing is the senses, the current, the present. ENFP may focus on details in the past, SI, introverted sensing. So you do have these things that can happen. Slow to process the most complex theories. NEP doesn't go as broad. They may normally go down to here for the level of depth. INFJ will go all the way to explore an idea to the bottom, and they'll be slow to process the most complex theories. Sensing needs are neglected in both. And because it was a jumping around from idea to idea, similar with the ENTP, you have a lack of follow-through going on here. So that's the ENFPs. ENFJs. ENFJs are the extroverted version of the INFJs. So what are they like? They're also known as compassionate facilitators. They're warm, empathetic, responsive and responsible. They're highly attuned to the emotions and needs and motivations of others, and find potential in everyone. They want others to help others fulfill the potential. May act as a catalyst for individuals and groups and group growth. They're loyal, responsive to praise and criticism, and sociable, facilitating others in a group and provide inspiring leadership. So the functions are going to be the same as the ENFJ's functions, but just more extroverted. So they typically can make very good facilitators and teachers based on theories. They won't be going as deep into the theories as an INFJ will, but they'll be more out there and sharing these theories with, teaching classes. I mean, my MBTI teacher, ENFJ, and he's very good at understanding MBTI theory. So what do we have? In a relationship, what they're like, ENFJs are extroverts in themselves, warm, sociable, deep conversation, sensitive and intuitive. Some of the challenges that happen, functionally, could be too similar. You share all the same 4 functions, just in a slightly different order. Extroverted feeling being dominant can be shared harmony. May want to push for external harmony, where the INFJ will want to keep they're exploring their ideas more, and then INFJ may find the ENFJ a lot more manipulative and controlling, because extroverted feeling still being the main thing. You want to make sure there's external harmony and shared values and similar activities. ENFJs are also pretty extroverted, one of the more extroverted types, so an INFJ may find them too extroverted, maybe become too tiring, too much activities and going out. We also overemphasize logic. And what you have here is a leader-follower dynamic developing. Typically, the ENFJ will be the leader in the relationship. Maybe something you want, something you don't want, but it's going to be hard to fight because the ENFJ is extroverted and uses the same. So the last pairing we come to is the INFJs. Would it be like to be with an INFJ? So INFJs are insightful visionaries. They seek meaning and connection in ideas, relationships, and material possessions. They want to understand what motivates people and are insightful about others. INFJs are conscientious and committed to their firm values and develop a clear vision about how to best serve the common good. They're organized and decisive in implementing their vision. So cognitive functions being the same, what can happen? So you got two INFJs together, wired exactly the same way. So you can go deep into a subject together. You can share common values together. You can explore your thoughts together and enjoy the sensing world at the same time. So yeah, some of the strengths: same functions, common language, share your deep insights. You also get your intellectual challenge and your emotional connection. Person being wired the same way as yourself. So what are the challenges that happen in another INFJ and INFJ relationship? Functionally too similar, same functions. So you have all the same blind spots. So all your negative things that you don't like about yourself, your partner most likely will have the same ones. So there's two of you to manage at home. If you get deep, dark, and depressive, your partner may also get deep, dark, and depressive. And not only that, you can drag each other deep into your hole together. And you can share the bottom where you explore the depths and darkness and abyss of life and try to find a way out together. But you can sink down. I mean, obviously you can work on the upside. You can share your deep theories together and you can spiral up. Your extroverted feeling is like a mirror, feeds off each other. So you get one feeling bounces back. You get positive feedback from your feeling happening. So if a good feeling, you can bounce back and forward, back and forward. And then you can go up in an up spiral of feeling good. But at the same time we talked about, it can work against you in a downward spiral. Same functional flaws as each other. Although you will get each other very well in your complex ideas. What will also happen, same four functions working exactly the same way. Your world could become very narrow. I mean, you have no idea how these functions work. And you don't know how extroverted intuition works. You can't go broad, you're both going deep together. You may find it hard to think outside the box and come up with a creative solution to your problem. Your introverted feeling is not going to be as developed. You don't know how it works. You're both kind of bouncing your feeling off each other. And you're looking for external harmony and not offending each other and come up with things in the short term. And later on you may, kind of use cutting criticisms versus each other when you kind of see the flaws in the other person, which you also have. You don't know how extroverted thinking or introverted sensing will work as much, and your world becomes quite narrow. You will typically focus a lot on self-discovery, so you know yourself really well, you know your partner really well, and you spend a lot of time on that. And the other person has the same weakness as you, and as I mentioned, you can't use these problems functions in problem solving. We had INFPs, which we talked about last week, so I won't go through those. You can look at the last 10 minutes of the video to understand what we talked about INFPs. Okay, so we come to the conclusions. What have we learned from our last two sessions together? First thing is, each MBTI pairing will have its own unique strengths and weaknesses, as we've looked at. MBTI can provide insights into attraction and sources of attraction through these cognitive functions. We can see why we're attracted to other people based on how our mind works. And as we talked about, there are reasons behind commonly touted ideal matches, like the ENFP being functionally complementary and the ENFP both using extroverted intuition dominant, something that can be attractive in INFJ. So at the end of the day, you have to decide what your most important characteristics, what you want in your partner. We talked about that right at the beginning of this session. What are your most important characteristics? You can't have it all. Nobody will have all the rest of the functions that you have. You don't have it, they don't have it. Your other half won't have the two arms, or they may have 2 arms and 2 legs, but you may need 8 legs and 8 arms in order to be complete as a person, and you can't have it all. So but what MBTI does do is it can provide a better fit in terms of what you are looking for. Some of those things which you talked about, your top 5 characteristics, whether what you want, that can be found in certain MBTI types which are better suited to give you some of these things. So some other tips. So attraction of opposites can exist in the short run, and we talked about ESTP and ISTP. So in the long run, these pairings will be difficult. Some of the clashes that can happen when you're sharing the same functions. Another tip is work on becoming the best version of yourself. In that way, you'll be attracted to healthy, complementary qualities in other people, rather than looking for the other person to complete you. So you won't be as attracted to some of the traits we talked about, maybe narcissistic traits or other traits, when you become a more healthy version of yourself. You're less looking for that in the other person. No one person can fully complete you, as defined by the classic definition of a soulmate, we talked about with the many arms and legs. And the other person will come with their own sets of strengths and weaknesses. So at the end of the day, learn to accept the good with the bad in all types. Thank you very much.